Hello everyone, my name is Ahmed. In today's C# lesson, we're going to learn about the while loop, and for loop. Okay, let's begin. Okay guys, let's begin with the loops. So, loops are a very crucial point while coding guys. You need to learn these loops very well, especially the for loop. Now, let's create a scenario for that. Let's say we're going to count 1 to 10. Alright, how are we going to do that? If we want to write that code without using loops, I need to write console write line 1 and again 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, right? I need to write like that. But if I try to count to 100, am I still gonna write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 11 until 100? Am I still going to write that in my write line string? No. How am I going to do that? I need a loop for me to count. So I'm just going to write while in here. Then, and as you can see, our while loop takes an argument like if and switch, and this while loop continues to loop until this argument between those parentheses is false. So while this argument is true, this while function is going to loop, and this argument is true for all the time, we are gonna get an infinite loop. So be wary about it. So let me just say, and let me just actually create int counter and assign that counter a 0 value. Then I'm gonna write counter smaller than 10. Why is that? Because I want to count until 10, right? And actually, let me just put a cosine here, so it's smaller than or equal than 10. So I'm gonna get 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I want to count until 10. It's starting with 0. So again, I'm gonna come here and write console write line counter. Why am I writing counter here? Because my variable that continuously changes is named counter. So my counter is changing every time in this loop. But if I try to execute this command right now, I'm going to get an infinite loop with zeros. And as you can see, it's continuously writing zeros for me. Why is that? Because I'm not changing my counter value. What I need to do, I need to add 1 to that counter value. I need to do some addition to that counter, right? So it will be bigger than 10. And when it will be bigger than 10, it's going to break out that loop, right? I want that. So let me actually write console read line here. So I want to break out that loop, but now I can't. I need to add some values to that count so I can break out that loop. So I'm just gonna come here and write counter plus plus. What will that plus plus do? It will automatically add +1 to my counter value. So what will be happen now? It's going to look at my argument first. It will say counter is smaller than 10 or not. Is it smaller than 10? Yes, it is. So it's going to come here and execute this line of command. Then it will add +1 to that counter value. Then it will go back to my while argument and check it again until my argument here is wrong. So let me execute this command. And as you can see, we have 0 until 10 guys. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And why is that? Because after the last step of my loop, the counter will be 11 and it will break out that loop. And actually, let me just console write line and print out my counter value, and you will see my counter value is 11. And as you can see, this is my counter value, and actually let me write counter value. This will be better. Yes, as you can see, my counter value 11. And what if I change that argument to 0, smaller than 0 to begin with? Is it going to execute my while loop? The answer is no guys. Why is that? Because of my value, my counter value is 0, and my argument says that if counter is smaller than 0, it will be executing this while argument. But as you can see, my counter is 0, it's not smaller than 0, it's equal to 0, so this while function will never be executed in this command. So let's move on to the do while command. Let's just say do here, and I'm gonna write that same while argument here. While counter smaller or equal than 10. And of course I'm just gonna copy and paste this here and delete this here. And as you can see, I have a semicolon in here. You need to put that semicolon in here in order to write do while loop, guys. If you don't, you can see it says semicolon expect, so you get an error. You need to put that semicolon. And when I execute my command, you can see it will still be counting 0 to 10. But you might ask, what's the difference then? What's the difference with do while and while loops? The difference is that if I change this argument to smaller than 0, this command will be executed, but only one time. Let me just start this command. As you can see, it started counting with the 0, but it will never be continued to execute this loop again. Why is that? Because whatever will be this argument, whatever argument you wrote here, it doesn't matter. This do while loop will be executed one time, whatever you do. Whatever you write in this argument, this command line, this do while line, will be executed in the first time always. Always and always this will be executed. But for the first time, of course. Now, let's get on to our for loop, which I love the most, and probably you're gonna use that the most. Let me just delete all of this, and actually I'm just gonna delete my int counter too. And I'm gonna write my for loop. And again, I'm just gonna write a counter 0 to 10. But in this for loop, we're gonna write 3 arguments, guys. First one will be my variable assignment. So what I mean by that, I can just write my int counter 0 here, or I can just write int counter here and assign that value in my for loop. You can do the both. You can do both. But I'm just gonna create my int counter variable in here because I'm not gonna use that int counter variable anywhere else from my loop. Now, for the second argument part, we're gonna write our real argument. And what was that our argument? Our argument was counter smaller or equal than 10. This will be our argument part. And for the last part, what were we doing in our while loop? We were writing at the end counter plus plus, right? Now, we are not writing this counter plus plus in my for loop. I'm writing that counter plus plus in my force argument part at the third part. Don't forget that. The order is important here. First part for our integer assignment or creation of my variable. The second part our real argument part. And the third part is our addition or subtraction. So basically changing my counter value. And of course you don't necessarily need to write anything. You can just write only one argument as well, but don't do that. You can, if you want to do that, you can just use while loop. Don't use for loop for that. So let me just write counter plus plus again, write console right line counter. And if I execute my command here, as you can see, I'm gonna get 0 to 10, guys. And also we can print out our arrays variables in here too, arrays values in here too. So let me just create an example array. Let's just say array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 here. And I can just say int counter is 0 I'm gonna assign my counter the value 0, then say if my counter smaller than my array length, execute this line of command, then add my counter a plus 1. So what am I going to print out here now? What am I going to print out from my for loop? I'm going to print out every item in my array here. So how can I do that? To do that, I need to write my array here, then put some square brackets and put the position of my items here. So I need to put items position here, right? What will be the position? That will be my counterpart. And why is that? Because my counter value constantly changing, right? It will going to start at 0 and it will be changing its value until it is bigger or equal than my array's length. So let's start trying execute this command. And as you can see, I'm getting my arrays item here. As you can see, 1, 2 until 10, guys. And with that, we can end our for, while and do while loops here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in our next C# lessons. Goodbye.